Good evening. Welcome to the March 5th meeting of the Grafton Board of Selectmen. First item on our agenda is announcements. I have 3 announcements to read. First one is congratulations to Joanne Hafty, who retired on Friday, March 1st. Joanne will truly be missed. She worked in the Treasurer's Collector's Office for 32 years. On behalf of the Selectmen, we wish Joanne well in her retirement. Number 2, registration is open for the spring and summer recreation programs. The schedule can be viewed online at graftonrec.com. And number 3, the Community Harvest Volunteer Open House. The Community Harvest Project will hold an open house on March 23rd from 11 to 2:30. Volunteers can learn more about working outdoors, assisting with daily farm activities in support of hunger relief. There are opportunities for casual volunteers and leadership roles. For more information, contact Wayne McAuliffe. How do you pronounce McAuliffe? Wayne at communityharvest.org. Sorry, I butchered your name, Wayne. All right. First item on our agenda, we have Andy Duchesne to give us, and Brooke Paget for the library. Well, we're getting building project updates for the library, DPW, and possibly the cable studio.
Yep, all 3.
All right.
Excellent. Thanks, and good evening, everybody. So yeah, this is just a monthly update, just in terms of where we are. Again, I can always bring more detail if you want it, but this is sort of the elevator speech. If somebody says, "Hey, how's the DPW project going?" I'd like you to be able to answer that with a little bit of information. So I get some photographs and some information. So this first one is this is the state of the site right now. The site's been cleared. There's work going on, but there's not much to look at other than a cleared site. Couple of shots here. Well number 2 being fracked. We had to we got a certain amount of water flowing, but we had needed to fracture the well to get a higher yield. So we're going to find out hopefully tomorrow what that yield looked like. But we've got a good well at this point, which was key to the project. The other one's just dropping off blasting mats. They're going to be doing some blasting of a fair amount of ledge at the surface that we need to blast away to get to make room for the foundation.
Was this expected on this for the site?
Ledge?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there were probably 10 spots that they had tested ahead of time, and some found it, some didn't. There was a lot more than we realized. Once we did about 120 test holes. And really peppered the site to understand exactly where the rock profile is. So that the design team and the construction team are working through that right now to figure out what that's going to look like. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's a fair amount of blasting that has to happen. Not so worried about the blasting. It's just the cost of blasting, removal, all that good stuff. So that'll be a fun moment. So just a few highlights again. The fence is in place. The site's been cleared. All of our major subcontractors are on board. Like I said, we did have a well drilled, and that water source has been established. Few of the issues, again, ledge near the surface. The first well that we drilled down to about 1,000 feet did not produce water. And then the last one is just, site work. Doing site work in winter is always a little bit of a challenge. Just some, cost and schedule stuff. Again, we're the budget's the budget. We're a little bit of the ways into contingency. There's been a few change orders. The second well that had to be drilled. Some things related to that. Mostly, the one that I'm nervous about a little bit is just the one coming up for blasting and ledge removal. The team's working extra effort to try and really quantify that carefully so we understand exactly what we have to do. And then schedule, again, we started in the middle of December, and we'll be going till mid-February of 2020 to complete. Next up, the former police station.
Wow.
The Grafton Cable TV project. Yeah, so
Looks very different.
yeah, it looks a lot different. And the next photo, there's a couple more photos of some of the areas that have been cleaned out. Demolition's pretty much complete at this point, and we're starting to put stuff back in. So some of the highlights, again, demo is done. There was an old generator up on the second floor mezzanine area that had to be removed, and I got that out safely. And then one of the challenges is this photo, the concrete beds that were in the cells were solid concrete, which is not normal. Normally there's a cell of styrofoam or something like that in the middle so you don't have to just pour all solid concrete, but this was 7 of those that had to be removed with a guy and a jackhammer. Not a good day to be on that end of the jackhammer.
Second use of blasting.
Right. Yeah. Again, the budget is good. We've got a couple of change orders to date. Those concrete beds were one of them. They were a lot more effort than we thought. There's been a little bit of just a couple of bumps in the road with just the quality of the drawings that we've had, but I think we've worked through all that stuff at this point, so we know where we are in terms of moving forward. In the schedule, we started in January, and we expect to be done by the 1st of June of this year. This is a quick one.
That's great.
So the library, yeah, come on up, Brooke. So the library, this photograph is, we went out to ask for qualifications. We're pre-qualifying all of our subcontractors and general contractors. It's sort of a 2-stage thing. You ask for qualification submittals, and from that list, everybody gets graded. If they pass, then that's your bid list. This is the response to our request for qualifications.
Wow.
So I think 72 subcontractors and 14 general contractors. That pile, we just divided up between the committee last night, and so everybody's going to be doing their homework for the next month, grading the subcontractors and contractors in the pre-qualification process. So great result. Actually very similar to the DPW project. We had, I think, about 68 subs and 10 or 11 general contractors. So really good. This is a very active project. A lot of people want to do this one, so it's good. That should mean good bidding as well. This is just a shot of St. Andrews where the interim library is going to be. We got some temporary shelving, metal shelving, from the city of Woburn. They had been using it for their temporary library, and the city of Reading used it before that. So we just moved that over to St. Andrews. We're going to be having, we're out to bid for moving services to move the library. Those folks will also install all this shelving in the temporary space for the duration of the project. Again, design is continuing. These aren't really to look at in detail, but we're at the point where there's furniture plans, and the architects are moving and engineers are moving through the drawings to develop the whole plan, and it's going really well. They've been regularly meeting with the library planning and building committee, with the MBLC, the state library organization, with Beth. So these are going to really reflect, the latest state of the art, what a library can be specifically for the town of Grafton.
Great.
Very good.
And there's
Oh.
a couple more. Becca had to play around. And again, so they're doing this, they're developing this, the drawings, and as they develop it, the 3D model actually gets developed at the same time. So at some point, you'll be able to virtually walk around through this library and see and feel what it's going to be like ahead of time. It's pretty nice. It's more than just fun. There's actually a good reason to be able to do that. You can make some adjustments as you need to by actually sort of virtually experiencing the space first. You get to see things you don't see just in 2 dimensions. So it's actually very, very helpful. And again, some of the highlights, design's going well. The MBLC has approved the latest design. We've gone back and forth with them. They had some kind of late changes, but we're incorporating those now. So that's all good from a state level. They're the ones that provide the matching funding, so it's important for us to have them approve what we're doing. We've got the bids due for movers this Thursday. I'm expecting 5 or 6 bids on that, which is good. They're all movers that have specific experience moving libraries.
You have it under your challenges. I mean, is that, besides the fact that it's extra something that you have to do, is there any more difficulty or less difficulty getting them in, or?
And for, as far as the move is concerned?
No, as far as like
Oh.
the challenge, you have it under
The shel-
challenges there, so.
the shelving,
Would you like some shelving?
yeah, would you like some?
After it's over, we can
The
talk.
che-
Have too much?
Challenge is getting rid of some of the shelving.
the free, quote unquote, free shelving was a challenge because we needed to get it here. We weren't ready to hire a mover yet. And so actually the OPM on this project, Mark Sullivan, owns a construction company, and he loaned us some guys and a bunch of guys and a couple of trucks over a couple of days and moved all this stuff from Woburn.
Okay.
And we have we have a lot more shelving than we need, but it's one of these, if you want a little
Gotta
bit,
take
you
it
gotta
all.
take it all. So, we'll
Now,
see
What, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
When they move the books, will they organize? Will they keep them organized?
Yeah.
Or do the librarians
Yeah.
have to go in and be like, oh my god?
No, the movers take it all off the stacks. They put them in order in carts. They roll them
Okay.
out, and then they restack them in order. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a big job.
It is a big job. Yep.
The only thing I would add to any of what Andy said is Mark Sullivan, who is the OPM, I think is a very good choice. He's been excellent. At the same point, Andy, I think it's been critical, at least for my confidence, having Andy in the room all the time. We never feel like we're not, in control of what's going on. And in addition, I've been on a few of these things. That committee is very. There's quite a few people who have a lot of knowledge on that committee.
It's a really good committee.
It's very
Yeah.
helpful, and they're really doing the due diligence and paying attention and looking at design, and I think it's going very, very well. Because of Mark, because of Andy, and because some of those people on there really know what they're doing.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have both those committees, because even the DPW advisory
both
and then
good.
even the
Yeah.
cable oversight, I mean, everyone who's part of that is extremely passionate about these projects.
Yeah.
And so it's a good thing to have them all.
It's fantastic to have those extra sets of eyes, because there really are some people with great experience on these committees. What else? So the GC and sub pre-qualifications are in right now, and in a month we'll have those all graded, and we'll move forward. So the budget, there's not really a lot to talk about in terms of cost. We're not under construction yet. The schedule, again, bids are due in May. We'll move the library at the end of April. Construction start, we expect by June 1st, and then we'll be complete in October of 2020.
Tim, can you remind me, the state will reimburse us after the project is complete, or as we go along?
As you go, right now we're 11th on the list. They do it in thirds by fiscal year. So if you were, you could actually get money in this fiscal year for the money you've spent, your third of whatever you've spent. So it's usually a third, a third, and a third over 3 fiscal years.
Okay.
Right now we're 11th on the list.
We've
in
moved
terms
up a
the
couple
wait
of
list,
spots, yeah.
But we've moved up a couple, but the state doesn't want to leave any money on the table. So if there's other projects that came in under, or they couldn't get it completed, we will get that money now. The third of whatever we've spent to date.
Right, so, but the state is still committed in that part.
Yeah, but it's still a 2024 for the payment. That's why we're gonna borrow it in staggered bands to have minimal impact to the taxpayer, but to be able to repay those notes with the state reimbursement.
Great.
I think that's the last slide.
All right.
So
Go ahead.
while you're here, for the move to St. Andrews,
Yep.
I received something from Smart, a driving school that's been using St. Andrews for some years now.
Okay.
They reached out and they wanted me to ask if there was any room for them there. Continuing on, I don't know who they've approached from the building committee or anybody at our office.
No, we were told by Frank that they might reach out to my office to find other space, not there, but someplace else. But there's no space inside that library for the driving school or any of the meetings they have there at night. All those people have been displaced as a result of it.
Okay, so moving forward while we're using the building, there's gonna be no
We're gonna use it all.
free space at all.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, with books and office space for the staff and things like
Yep.
that. Okay,
Yeah, that wing that they're in right now is gonna be the whole children's library.
okay.
And
Is there an
offices.
effort being made, or where should I direct them next if they can't use St. Andrews? To go directly to you? Can you help them? See if they can
I'll
find
try to help. I don't think I can even think of a spot where we have space that can accommodate. 10 years ago, they were upstairs in this building, but obviously the school department's up there now. There's no space here.
Cadron's building?
Huh?
You know the Cadron building, used to be Cadron's across from where the guy's fixing up the Old Finn's Pharmacy. It's the white building, used to be a showroom.
Oh, the police are in there right
Yeah,
now.
the police are in there temporarily. The
In
state
that one?
police,
Yeah.
state police.
Jeez, all right.
They use Marty Green to get into that space now. They should just call Marty Green again and see if he can find them another space.
Alright.
I mean, they certainly can call me, but I don't have anything municipal wide that we can get to them.
Okay,
them in.
there was no existing lease between them, it was just some type of deal between St. Andrews and them, or Marty and them, or,
It would have been St. Andrews and them. I don't know the terms of the deal.
so was it a handshake type of thing, or?
I mean, you probably have to ask St. Andrews on that one. That's what it sounds like.
Alright, well, who brokered the rental agreement with this?
For the town, I did.
You know, who represented them?
Frank Streeter.
Okay, and he's the,
He's with the
Like-
diocese.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, a trustee of the church for the diocese of Worcester. Right?
Okay.
Diocese of Worcester?
It's Episcopal, what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a diocese.
Yeah. It's a big tree.
It's big, yeah.
You have anything else?
I do not.
Anything else? No. Good.
All
Okay.
right, guys, thank you.
Great. Yep.
Thank you for the update.
We'll be back.
Yes. All right. So I'm just gonna skip ahead because I see somebody here from the fire department. So I'm assuming he's here for the fire department study committee, vote to establish a committee and set the charge.
Sure.
okay, so, what are we, just designing and tailoring the, committee?
There's
Well, I
there's a
honestly,
chart in the packet.
yeah, so to be honest with you, I kinda wanna push this off and have a full board here. Have Craig's input as well and kinda just talk it over and just make sure everybody's happy with this. And I think that'll give us more time to look it over if that's all right with everyone, but that's just one man's opinion.
Well, we can see if Mr. Matthew has any input while he's here, so he doesn't have to come.
Just observing tonight.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though.
Yeah, I just,
Was there anything in the charge that you had, anything jump out at you in terms of the composition? I try to take what you guys had talked about, but I got a lot of feedback from, the rank and file membership, leadership, people who are outside, retired, that want to be a part of. So we kind of were very specific about when they hold their meetings, they should take public comment. People should be listened to, and they should have a public hearing. We're very specific in the charge to have those things in there. So, people that don't make it on the committee should still come and offer their 2 cents relative to the prioritization of the report and its recommendations. But I think 7, at least I got the baseline from you all, that 7 was probably the right number.
So you wanna wait for Craig?
I would like to, but again, just one man's opinion. We don't have to, but I just think it would be, if we had everybody here, we could just talk about it and I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah?
He was vocal with what he wanted the other time, so I don't wanna do something and just have him come to the next one and wanna change some things.
That's,
no reason for
that's
it.
exactly, you know what I'm saying? Like he had I think out of 5 of us had a lot of opinions on
Yeah.
it and the idea of it and creating it, so, I just wanted to do that.
So 312?
312 if that's okay. Tim, what am I
but
doing?
is,
what
I'm
are we
sorry,
doing
is,
with this?
the charge though is like, is it somewhere where like people can take a look at it and if they have any, okay. So members of they can look at it and if they have any questions or concerns, they can contact the office or come on the 12th.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way for them to have a discussion with you all, to make sure that you get a charge that makes sense.
That works
But
for-
the way I wrote it was just to really give the public input, but keeping the committee to the recommendations inside the MRI report, and
Okay.
then prioritizing them as they go.
Okay,
'Cause you guys can get off the rails as much as you want, but for them, I think they need to stay in the context of that study.
okay. Yeah, that's fine, and so if people wanna take a look at it and come on the 12th, if they have any suggestions or changes to the charge, or,
Can you put numerics down here next for them,
okay,
just so
that's
they?
fine.
Yep,
I'm
I-
happy to
It's
pass
all
over it.
Okay,
I know, it's weird.
so we'll take it up on the 12th.
That makes sense.
All right, perfect. All right, and since Liz is here, I'll take another thing out of order, the one-day beer and wine license for Apple Tree Arts.
All right,
Do you want to
going, Bruce?
Yeah, I don't know.
advertise or
Me.
let us know what it's for? And I mean, I guess I could say it, but
You know how I like to get up in front of you.
exactly.
So yeah, we have an event on Friday, March 15th. That is a Celtic band coming to perform at Apple Tree. And one of the members of the band used to teach at Apple Tree. Her name is Myra, and she's really cool and should be fun. Just something fun to do for the St. Patrick's Day weekend. And the second thing is another Claflin Hill concert, and those are always great. That's in April. I can't remember the date off the top of my
April
head.
13.
Yeah. So,
So it's both.
Are there costs associated with either one of those?
yes, the Celtic concert is $20, and I believe Claflin Hill's $19.
Buy them at the door beforehand? How
You
does that
can
work?
buy the Celtic concert. You can buy online ahead of time if you go to our website, or at the door. And then Claflin Hill, you can buy at the door or at Apple Tree Arts. You can call. Or
19 is so specific. It's like it could. They
yeah,
do want this one.
Claflin's those prices, so I don't know why it's 19.
All right. Any,
I move we approve a one-day beer and wine license for Apple Tree Arts on March 15th and April 13th of 2019.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion.
I just have some quick. I feel like Apple Tree Arts has been having events on a regular basis and have not had any trouble with their tip certified servers or any issues with the serving of alcohol in that space.
Yeah. I mean, it's for what we do. If we ever have an event where I think people are going to drink more than 1 or 2 glasses of wine or something, I would hire professionals because. But these things, maybe people have. I mean, it's rare that someone has two drinks. So
I
they're
just
very
wanted to-
tame. But thank
But
you.
you guys are doing a good job.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion granted. Thank you, Liz.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Liz.
Thanks.
All right. Now we can go back up to the appointments, Board of Selectmen ones. We have MBT Advisory Board, designate and appoint a local representative. So, yeah, I was thinking about this and talking actually to Tim. And one guy in this town who I think would be great on this, I haven't asked him. And so maybe I shouldn't speak for him, but it's just an idea. We should talk to Bob Hassinger about this, because I think this is right up his alley.
Is it just a member in town, or do they looking for a member on our board?
And just as a
It's
local
a
representative.
designee for you to appoint. Generally, it's the chairman of a board. We don't have a lot of good records of who was appointed in the past, nor did MBTA, and that's kind of why they sent the letter, because they want to update their records. So that's why they want to just get someone appointed.
Well, how
and
do you
start
want
fresh.
Hassinger on this?
Why?
Yeah.
I just
Has he
think
been on it before?
I think that between like anything that has to do with planning and
Transit.
transit and that kind of stuff, I think that's it's just right up his alley if you know the guy.
Sounds good. I can make that motion now if you like.
I mean, do we have
He
to
should
ask
be
him?
alert.
Yeah, I
first.
think you should
Yeah, you should ask.
ask him if he's willing to
In
serve.
fairness.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
find out.
You
if
can
he-
make the motion if he's willing to serve, then he will be a designee. If he's not,
I saw him
that's
in the
fine.
building.
We'll
I don't know
have to
where
revisit
he
it.
went though. I don't know if
reach
he's,
out to him.
if
That's
he's
fine.
here for anything. I thought I
If
saw
he
him.
does not want to do it, I wouldn't mind doing it. So.
Okay.
But if he is willing to, that's fine as well.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Why don't we make a motion to? Well, I think somebody should make the motion that we should try to appoint him, and if he accepts, I just think that he would serve this board very well.
But if he doesn't accept, the
Yeah.
Jen would be the appointed.
Yeah.
It's not that complex of a motion, but
I move that we appoint Bob Hassinger to this position contingent upon his acceptance.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Sure, he's gonna be excited.
The next one is, the Conservation Commission wants to appoint, or we is asking to appoint, Helen Cheney. She submitted a letter of interest to serve on the Concom. There's one seat available due to the recent resignation of Nathan Jaffer from the commission. At their last meeting, the Conservation Commission reviewed her letter of interest and they are recommending she be appointed.
I move the board vote to appoint Helen Cheney as a member of the Conservation Commission.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, new business. We have a one-day beer and wine license for the VFW post in South Grafton.
Move we approve one-day beer and wine license for March 17th for VFW Post 1497, South Grafton.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the Clean Harbors Environmental Services Hazardous Waste Day Agreement.
So with the rebuild of the wastewater treatment facility, we haven't done a hazardous waste day in 3 years, and people have absolutely been clamoring for it. So we want to have it again. It'll be on June 15th, and this agreement will be for the chair to sign with Clean Harbors, and I think it's not to exceed 15,000. I don't have it in front of me, but we
Yes,
don't want to turn anyone away,
15,000.
so we have that not to exceed, because when people roll in, we get charged on what they bring and what they have to dispose of.
How do they make a determination?
Just by quantity of cans and buckets that come out of people's cars.
Okay.
Okay. I move the board vote to authorize the chairman to sign the agreement with the Clean Harbors Environmental Services for the hazardous waste collection day.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So it'll be June 15th. Where is it typically?
It'll be at the wastewater treatment facility on
Okay.
Depot.
Okay,
And we'll publicize it as we go.
thank you.
All right, moving forward, we have municipal center parking limits.
I don't know if you could pull up a picture of this parking lot. So the long and short of this is, we have a lot of people in this building for a lot of different reasons. The back parking lot as you come up the hill, against the fence closest to the field, a lot, 10, 15 students and/or teachers, we haven't determined who the culprits are, park here, which is a loss of revenue for them because they have parking fees, and it interferes with all the programming that senior center does. So in order to have something enforceable, I think once we put the signs up, it's gonna just end, but we wanna put signs along the fenced area on this back row, as you can see from here. There'll be 4 signs. The parking will be 3-hour parking only from 7 to 3, except Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. So that's how it'll be marked. There'll also be 2 other signs as you come up the driveway. There's a small 18-inch sign to the right. It talks about municipal parking and annex parking. Annex was obviously the old building that was back there for the school department. That building's gone, so we don't have that annex building anymore. So we changed those to bigger signage that lets the students and the teachers who do park there that they cannot. And then along the fence where the curve is, going north, we'll sign that as well with the same signs. Then we'll show you a picture of it, and actually it was in the packet as well. But for them to be enforceable, we need a Board of Selectmen vote. Now, enforceable is a relative term, because all we want to do is not have people park there and limit other activities from happening. So we hope the signs will eradicate it. If they do not, the police can be there at 7 a.m. because there's no one working in this building at 7. We'll know who parked there at 7. They obviously don't work here. They'll come back at 10. Those cars will still be there. That'll be in violation of this is not the right sign, but that'll be what it looks like. They'll be able to tag those cars.
So the police will do the enforcing.
Yeah, and they need the Board of Selectmen to have voted on a regulation for parking at the municipal center for that purpose.
And do we have to, it says here, we have to allocate an amount for the fine or anything like that?
The chief told me yesterday in his ticket book, he doesn't know where it came from, so we're doing that research now, is for parking over time is $2.
$2? That's
An
not-
hour or a
No,
day?
just for the violation.
Yeah, that's not high.
So we have to backtrack, because it's in the book, but we don't know what precipitated the book. There's a little legwork that has to be done to figure that piece out. And we would have to come back to the board. If you ever adopted a parking regulation or a traffic regulation, it would have to be voted on by the board. But again, I don't think we're ever gonna issue a ticket. I think we're gonna have one warning that goes on these vehicles once these signs are up, and I don't think those people are gonna park there again. The school has been great at, giving notice, making announcements, don't park over here, but people still do it.
Do we have a mechanism to collect money if you had to issue the fine? Because I remember we talked about this with the dogs in the cemetery. We were gonna fine people for the poop. And we thought that maybe we didn't have a mechanism to collect the money. Do we have that now?
Yeah, you still do not have non-criminal disposition, but the
Okay.
police, through chapter 90 powers, I think they have more of a stick that we don't need that non-criminal disposition. They come locally to the parking clerk, who is Rebecca, who can hear the case and determine if they should pay or not pay.
Okay.
So what, like, if you get a parking ticket in the city of Boston or Worcester, and if you don't pay it, you have 21 days to not pay it or pay it or whatever, and then,
Not contested, yeah.
yeah, then
Same with us.
it goes on your license, right?
Vehicle registration, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Right.
where it gets attached to.
So would that be our mechanism for collecting at all, or if it ever got to that point, $2?
Yeah, I mean, once you take this action, if that $2 is on there, that'll be the next logical step.
Okay.
What action do we have to take to change the fine?
Say again?
What action do we have to take to change the fine?
That's the thing I need the chief to figure out. I don't know if it's a town meeting action, because Westboro and Shrewsbury both have parking regulations. It's not clear to me from reading their document whether it was voted at town meeting or it's set by the Board of Selectmen.
We already, up on the common, there's places you can't park. And, do the police never issue a parking violation? Is
They
that-
do,
Oh,
they do,
okay.
but for designated areas that have already been voted on in the past,
Right,
that,
but that fine is only $2 too?
no, it's for over time, so I don't think we have any place in town where you can park for 2 or 3 hours.
No, I know, okay.
But if they were parked in a no parking zone, whatever those fines are,
Right,
they
I
are.
would think
They're
that
more than $2.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to go, is whatever those are. It would be
Yeah,
considered.
and again, I don't think once you sign it and you put warnings on these people's cars, they're not gonna park there anymore.
Can you remind me what those 2 vans are that are always taking up 2 spots in the meeting?
Emergency management,
Oh,
we
okay.
got a grant, so they have everything from cots to emergency supplies inside those, and
So that's
we need to roll them every once in a while, to be honest with you, to make sure the tires don't get dead spots in them, but that's a different management story.
So do you need a motion from the board for this?
I don't know what I have on this list here to, yeah,
Yeah.
to allow us to install parking signs around the municipal center, specific along the fence line behind. Yeah, can you bring the sign back up? Because I think I covered this. It'll be no parking Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, but there'll be it'll say 3-hour parking. It'd be 7 to 3, so 8 to 5 would change, and except Saturday, Sundays, and holidays. And those will be placarded along the fence. There'll be 4 behind the gym, and probably 4 more along this wall from the vault northbound.
We'll see if they start parking in the front of the building.
Yeah, well, I don't wanna start sticking poles every place.
No,
So
I
I'm
know,
hoping the
I know.
2 signs as you come
No,
up
I
the
know.
drive will be the deterring factor. And then to reiterate, cause they're already parking along the fence.
Have
it's
you sent
convenient.
the memo to Jay?
Yeah, well, Jay and I have talked, he's talked to,
Yeah.
the principal, they've done announcements, they've done notices.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the next step.
Yeah, there's 6 or 7 cars that are still left there every day.
Alright, I move the vote to allow the installation of limited parking signs around the municipal center, specifically along the fence line behind the municipal center,
Second.
as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Moving on. We have the pay-as-you-throw bag fee. Vote to increase fees.
Did we ever get something back from the manufacturer about, the complaints that we talked about, when we were,
Yeah, we did, and they're not finding, that the retailers are taking them back and sending them back. They have, we've gotten like 3 or 4 emails through, the website with pictures, and we send those along, because they have the code and the makeup of the resin and all that stuff. We sent that to them, to the manufacturer, and we've had very stern conversation with them about shopping for a new bag manufacturer. So it's difficult, because everybody who has a ripped bag it's supposed to fail at 25, 28 pounds. It's supposed to. It's not supposed to hold 50 pounds of trash. So they're gonna fail. So given that, if you don't return them, I never know until you guys tell me the problem that Ed had, and then the problems that the 3 other people that emailed us had.
Well, the problem is you're not gonna return them, because you find out that the thing is a piece of junk when you've got, 10 pounds of trash in it, and you're bringing it out on a Sunday night. I got one that it's not even that it ripped, it's that, see the drawstrings? One drawstring came out, and then the other one was like welded to the side of the
Yeah,
bag.
they overglue.
And that wasn't just that bag, it was like the whole bunch. Lately, they've been better, I would say, over the last 2 weeks. But, it's like they're being creative with ways that they can fail now. I would never like the drawstrings fail. It's not just that we overstuff the bags. They're terrible.
Well, if your first one was bad and you still have the roll, that's the roll you bring back to the store for a refund or another set of bags. So that's, I've done it once early on here, and it worked fine, but it's not townwide. It's very spotty in terms of the quality of the bags are good. There's been a couple points where they've been bad. So we stay on them. And Becca and I toyed with the idea of just ripping open a random bag and just loading books in them and see at what point they fail. Because we have bags in the building.
I think at the last meeting, we talked about this. We talked about maybe potentially bringing in competitors for that. I know that the drawstring was only that one company, but does it make sense to maybe get rid of the drawstrings and see what we can do if we can find a different, or maybe a stronger bag or a more thicker bag?
Well, we are doing that. We are looking. There is not another vendor that has what we need for the business end of this. We never wanted to sell bags at the municipal center or at DPW.
Yeah.
These is the only group so far that we found that can drop ship to a store, collect the money, deposit the money into our account. There is Upton uses another, they use a company, and volunteers, they get a delivery of pallets at the municipal center. Volunteers go and bring those boxes to retail outlets. We don't have that infrastructure to do that. So right now, as it works, it just gets drop shipped to all the 9 locations that sell bags. They pay for them when they get them, then they pay us for those bags. We are going out to bid, though.
We are gonna go out to bid, yep.
We haven't found one that has a drawstring yet. That's
Not that
competitive
can
in
do-
price.
Yeah, not that can do the retail management and also have the drawstring.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was this, Facebook post that had, on the Grafton News, that had like 200 comments on it, or whatever the number was, something ridiculous. And people were more engaged about trash bags than they were other things in town, which kind of scared me a little bit. But
Well, it's an important service. I mean,
sure, of course, but so is like overrides and UPS.
Right.
But anyway, I don't think that when I'm reading the comments and seeing the complaints, a lot of the complaints were, the bags suck. Bags are bad quality, whatever. But there were a couple comments in there too, which I agree with. I still think it's a good value for what, if the bags were good and what we're paying for them, I think that then we're offering very good value to the townspeople, because talking to my friends in Westboro and elsewhere, they're paying $50-$60 a month. Whereas I'll probably pay for, I'll probably use 2 rolls of the large bags, which is like 10 large bags over 30 days. That's $26 or whatever it's good. Or what is it? $36, right?
No,
No,
two
$18.
rolls, $18.
Yeah.
So $18 a month. So, I think that's pretty good value. Look, that was really good math on my end. Jesus Christ.
I mean, what was good about the comments on Facebook and that Ed brought to us, we shipped that right back to the manufacturer. Then I followed up with, we're shopping for other bags. They're the only bad manufacturer on the state bid list, unfortunately.
That does.
wonder-
That has drawstrings.
I wonder how that works.
We're gonna go outside.
That is kind of amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna go broader,
We're
but
gonna just do a full invitation for bid,
Yeah.
do the whole thing. I mean, if the board wanted to, if the board thought that we should consider no drawstring, that certainly opens up the market significantly.
Yeah, I mean,
But I
it's,
mean, that's something that I think people in this town are tied to.
yeah, I mean, we did, I mean, it was 10 years ago, but we did,
Yeah.
I mean, I did a lot of meetings throughout this community. People were like, we had all different types, the wave top, twist ties, drawstrings, and they were like, you gotta do drawstrings, or well, we'll burn our trash in the backyard. I mean, there were people sitting in this back row here, that's what they were going to do with their trash. Or, there were also people that were willing to burn it in their oven, which I never even considered, but that's what people told. So I mean, that's how passionate they are about trash.
yes.
If you wanna do that whole thing again, more than happy to. But we don't have the resources in-house to run a program with a retail end of it in-house, and it's such an inconvenience for people to have to come here to buy bags.
Yeah.
We don't wanna be in that business.
Alright, so we're gonna stay with the drawstrings, you're gonna go back out and open it up, the bid. Go beyond the state list, and see if you can find something, but in the interim, we still are seeking other
Well, and
revenue
again, we're
sources.
encouraging people, if they have a bad batch of
Yeah,
bags.
they gotta
come back.
bring it back.
Yeah,
It's like,
kids
hey,
are
you have
throwing
a
up.
bad gallon of milk, just gotta bring it back. It's the only thing, that's how it works.
Well, they can also call us if they have the number on the bag. That's all we need is that number that's printed on the bag. And then we can go back to the manufacturer with the number and they can look it up. And,
Yeah,
If
and
they
we
have
can,
any
we
more
can get refund
inventory,
for
they
it. We
pull
can
them.
also give someone a bag
Yep.
or a roll of bags here at the office. So if there's those small iterative steps, we can do that stuff. We can make those small fixes for folks.
It sounds like there's just not a lot of incentive on their part to make any changes, because they're providing an essential service that we need, and that they're dropping them off at the store, collecting the money, and, practically daring us to go do something else.
Unless I can find someone that can provide that same level of service, I don't. But I will tell you, they were very responsive when I was
Yeah,
telling
we
them
got
that
several
I'm
phone calls.
shopping, because the comments here and the comments from the public and the pictures I forwarded along to them.
Good.
So they realize that their quality assurance piece for their resin has to be stepped up.
Absolutely. I mean, they're probably trying to save themselves a penny.
Yeah.
So they'll take it somewhere else, and then the quality suffers and lacks, and they don't care until it hurts their bottom line. And then they'll start caring.
So this 60,000 in increased revenue, that's a conservative figure?
No, we think based on bag sales, it's probably the right number.
Yeah, dead on, alright.
What will probably happen
You already programmed this into the budget, though.
for 20,
Correct.
correct.
Alright, so this doesn't alleviate any other concerns that you may have with the budget.
Well, yeah, well, pre-UPS news.
Yeah, we'll cover that too, but
Yeah,
this,
no, I know you're getting there. I'm just saying, why don't we wait till after we talk about the budget before we set one of these meters, if, because this is an avenue by which we can overcome some shortfalls. So, we're setting this before we even have a new budget outlook.
But we needed this before, right?
Yeah, this was
was
in it.
always-
This
this
was
was in
there
it
before the
before.
UPS.
No, I get it, but if you were to go beyond that, you're gonna make a vote now to go 450 to 5, and then in 2 weeks when we try to bridge the gap, the delta.
well,
it's in
No, it's
the
already-
gap is
The
bridged.
Gap is bridged.
There's a plan to bridge.
We're
the
gonna
gap.
get to that in about 2 seconds.
All right.
No need to increase them more than what we're proposing here, the 60 grand. That will suffice for 20 anyway.
Okay.
And as it competes with other bags that people sell in other communities, this is probably this is as high as you can go. Right, I know
Yeah,
Worcester's
well-
considering some,
I mean, I don't wanna get too much into the weeds, but like, we looked at a lot of other towns, what it costs other towns that have pay-as-you-throw, towns that don't, and Grafton is like solidly in the middle. You know, we're not getting a bad deal, we're not getting the best deal, but, you know, we're in the right area, and there are some places where it is significantly more expensive and less convenient, so.
And to anybody who doesn't want to use these bags or thinks it's too expensive, they have the opportunity to opt out if they'd like to, right?
Yeah, they don't, they just have to call up a private hauler and get their trash picked up.
Which costs,
Yeah, it
A
costs
lot
$60
more.
a month.
Yeah.
yeah.
And they don't get recycling, so that'll be a tough thing to
It's an
manage,
added
'cause,
cost.
yeah, how,
All right, I move the board vote to increase trash bag fees effective July 1st, 2019, from $4.50 to $5 per a small roll and $8.50 to $9 per large roll.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we have, already did that. Selectmen reports, TA reports. Anyone on our board here have any reports?
I don't know if Tim was gonna mention it, but on Wednesday night was the,
Main Street.
Main Street in South Grafton meeting, and there was a great turnout, and people had a lot of great input. So I appreciate, we appreciate everybody coming out. Little bit of issues with the presenters, but Tim's working. Tim's taking care of that. But the project's at 25% designed, and hopefully the
I
momentum
mean,
will
was
keep
it,
going.
was it just, miscommunication, or was it a lack of understanding on?
I'll try and just take a stab at it. The engineers are engineers, they're not
Yeah.
real good at public speaking, but in giving them some credit, they have the DOT, Mass DOT, who runs the public hearing, and they don't talk to the engineer ahead of time, nor did we, which we fixed that today, because we will going forward to make sure we can have a perfect presentation. But the expectation for MassDOT is just to hear comments. And that's all that they were supposed to do. So since there's no communication between MassDOT running the meeting and we're gonna run it, but you're gonna talk about the particulars, if they never talk about that, then the expectation,
Yeah.
there isn't one. So it was messy. It was messy because if you go through Northbridge, you see a lot of bump outs of curb lines where people park because the project has to meet standards that the federal government and the state has in terms of roadway width, sight lines, parking, bike lanes, sidewalks. You have to meet all those criteria to get the money. Now, it's a $7.5 million project. We gotta do all that, we gotta meet all those criteria. So the engineer's trying to meet that criteria to satisfy the state. And walking into a meeting with 80 people who have different ideas of what it should be, but don't realize that if you don't meet that criteria, you don't get the road. You don't get the money to do the road. So finding that balance is the tough thing. So I had a meeting with them today on that matter in the two squares, Sampson and Wentz Square, in terms of making those committees agreeable, the soldiers and sailors. I was under the impression, that was one of the hiccups we had. People in the audience was like, oh, these people never talked to. I was under the impression they were mixed in with the historic group and soldiers and sailors, and they weren't, so I apologize for that. We moved on with the soldiers and sailors today to look at Sampson Square and where that flagpole monument and cannon can go and how that'll work at Sunnyside and Elmwood. And they were all in agreement with it, and it's a great design, and should be on the website tomorrow. From a rendering standpoint, just needs to be engineered, and, there's many iterations of this, and we're still taking comment. So the long and short of it is that the presenters did not do a fantastic job. They can get better, and it's designed to meet a need that the state has, and the only way we're gonna get the money is to get the state to agree to the design. So having said that, February 2021, we'll be bidding that project out. Sounds like a long way away, but it's not. In fact, we made application for this when it was 6.3 million or 6.5 million, and we were in 2014, and I think we're slated for 19. So 5 years later, we're pushed back another 2 years.
Hypothetically, I'm not saying this would ever fly, but if we wanted to, in the way to bypass anything state or federal or whatever, could we use roads money to do it ourselves or no?
You could, yeah.
Okay.
You just don't have 7.5 million.
No, no, I get that. But I just didn't know how much of the 7.5 is, these requirements or taking, or whatever,
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know them.
they have a design. I mean, you're gonna have sidewalks on both sides.
Yeah.
You're gonna have bike lanes. And you're gonna have some preemptive signals around the school and the fire station. There's gonna be a lot of enhancements and a lot of improvements. And then the traveled roadway is gonna
And
be,
crosswalk, so
Incredible.
it'll be easier
Yeah.
and it's a lot safer to be a pedestrian in that area.
all right,
so I only have a couple things after, when
That was all I
you're
had.
done.
you have anything? Ed?
Nope.
Good.
All right, so some of the things that we've been working on, obviously the timing for the financing for DPW and the library and the cable studio, we're looking to do those in May. So we had a meeting on that today. Today, we also met with the PEC, the Public Employee Committee, to discuss health insurance renewals. The health insurance renewal, as it ties back to the budget, was at 5.4%. We were carrying 8, so the savings out of the health insurance budget will be about 115,000. So that helps bridge the gap that we just talked about the 350 for UPS. We'll cover that in more detail after. The MassDOT hearing, we talked about that a little bit. We talked about the soldiers and sailors. They are on board with the concept for the cannon at Sampson Square. There is a lengthy process in terms of land acquisition, temporary takings, easements. A lot of the poles get moved on the street, on Main Street. So this is called aerial trespass. We have to go to every homeowner. I think there's 216, where we have to meet with them individually, document the conversation, get appraisals, and determine what the value is for that taking, even though it's just an easement. We had that meeting Wednesday as well. So that's gonna be a long process. It'll take town meeting approval for the Board of Selectmen to be able to enter into negotiations with these folks. Good news is there's not a lot of value for all those. And Chapter 90 can be used to fund any of those things. People can obviously give us the easement for nothing, but some people may want to be compensated for the appraised value. Could be anywhere as low as $62 to a couple $100. It's not gonna be huge money. But some of the poles get moved back out of the right of way a couple
If
feet.
they do give it to us, do they get some sort of deduction or?
Will be able to go to the assessors and change the value of their land. So they might save, if they saved $1,000, they'd save $16.66 per thousand. So we're working on that, so that's gonna be a huge undertaking. VHB, when we met with them today, they're doing both the design for Main Street and for Adams Road. And there's some water issues coming off the Knowlton land that's causing some homeowners some problems. So they are going to re-engineer that, and we talked about 2 options to get the water off of those properties today. So we're gonna have those next Thursday and meet with the homeowners hopefully next Friday or the following Monday to get that resolved. I think I sent an email about that issue just so you all knew about it, but just wanted you to know we're working on it. The other thing about the Creeper Hill property, the Paquette Farm folks are still interested in pursuing that land for farming. He called me yesterday, we talked for a little bit, so we're still working on those details. We did meet with the superintendent of schools and, basically telling him that there's no need to reduce their budget any further than where they were at as a result of the 350. So they won't be absorbing any of that decrease as a result of that revenue shortfall. Project on Route 30, we'll be out to bid in April for the sewer project. Final designs are being done now. For Route 30 again, we did have a coordination meeting with National Grid for their project on Route 30, so we can keep those things in lockstep. And then we asked them to have a subsequent meeting with Tufts to work out how they're gonna get on to Willard Street for that part of their electrical project. And then finally, we forwarded today from the planning board a number of zone change amendments for the Maytown meeting, which you have, you got by email. But they deal with everything from Worcester Street, Route 30, and extending by special permit marijuana retailers for recreational into community business districts. So those are the the lion's share of those articles. And obviously, there'll be a public hearing that the planning board will have, and we can have Joe in to talk about the details, but there is a memo that we sent you guys today on those. And finally, the Economic Development Commission is looking at a temporary sign bylaw as well. There's a lot of temporary signs out there that we don't have a bylaw about, but people complain about them, and then we have to do an enforcement order to say, take down your sign. So the EDC, we forwarded along a model bylaw relative to temporary signage, and hopefully they'll champion that and bring that to town meeting as well.
I thought we had one.
We never adopted it.
Really?
We've tried
We
twice.
did a CVEMS one for changeable electric message board signs, but you didn't do one for temporary.
Oh, 'cause, God, when I was on planning board, me and Sargon sat through like 2 weeks of temporary sign talk. I'll tell you.
That was the second iteration, because when I was on planning board like 4 or 5 years before that, we went through an entire subcommittee and did the whole rigmarole. And nothing came of it.
Just
and
vote to allow it. Give them a
Oh my God.
60-day window, and I don't know. Hopefully, so EDC will come back with that. That's all I have.
So EDC's gonna propose the bylaw?
I gave them some parameters for a model bylaw, and they'll discuss it.
And then they're gonna take it to planning board and go through the.
Oh,
Alright,
We need someone to carry the water.
I would rather do anything else. Anything else in my life.
Well, the good news is we have someone else that's gonna help.
That's good.
Are you ready for correspondence?
I don't know, are you all set?
I am.
That was it? Does anyone have any questions on Tim's report? No. All right. Yes, please, correspondence.
All right, I have a letter from our governor and lieutenant governor. Dear Town Administrator Tim McInerney, we are pleased to inform you that Chapter 90 local transportation aid funding for the fiscal year 2020 will total $200 million statewide, pending final legislative approval. This letter certifies that pending final passage of the bond authorization, your community's Chapter 90 apportionment for the fiscal year 2020 is $498,523. This apportionment will automatically be incorporated in your existing 10-year Chapter 90 contract, which will be available on the Mass.dot website. The Chapter 90 program is an integral part of the maintaining and enhancing your community's infrastructure and is an essential component of our state-local partnership. We look forward to working with you in the coming year to continue the success of this program. Thank you for all you do to make the Commonwealth of Massachusetts a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker and Karen E. Polito.
Is that number lower than last year?
Yeah, I think we carried 502. 502 was last year, so it's down $4,000.
I wonder how they, I mean,
There's the
just a
factors of
formula, right?
employment, lane miles. I forget what, yeah, I think those are two major ones.
Yeah.
all right. Moving on, we have discussion. First item is the May 13, 2019 annual town meeting warrant. Closes on March 29th.
So with that, there's 45 days prior to an annual town meeting, we can take warrant articles that are submitted. There will also be, as there always is, a special town meeting before the annual in May. So that'll be published on probably the 13th as notice. You'll have a special before the May town meeting. And then there's, under the charter, there's 5 days, 5 business days that people can submit articles. So that'll go in the paper on the 13th.
Cool. Anybody have anything to add?
It's more an informative piece than,
All right.
What
FY,
is-
go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, what is, the planning board article that they want put on the warrant is, for moving or extending the bylaw? When are they holding their public hearings and things like that?
I don't know the dates of them. They might be in that packet. All I have is the memo. The memo does not give me the dates of their hearings.
All right.
But I can get them to you.
We really should coordinate with them for some representation from us to, at that meeting, so.
It's scheduled for March 25th at 7:15 p.m.
Where'd you get that from?
On the memo that was sent.
Oh, it is, all right, it is on there.
Yeah.
I just glossed right over it.
Oh, that's the one I didn't bring with me. Apologies. I didn't bring that one.
All right, FY 2020 budget.
Yeah, so we had this deficit of 350, the shortfall of 350 with UPS. So the two major revenue shifts that allowed us to bridge the gap were health insurance came in at 5.4 versus the 8, so that was a net savings of 115. And then the assessors had a meeting last Wednesday. So the assessors for at least 10 years that I've been here, they've always held 300,000 in overlay for exemptions and abatements for elderly, blind, military. So they've always held that number. So they had a meeting and they said, hey, you know what? Because of the Municipal Modernization Act, we don't have to do it by fiscal year anymore. They can roll them into one fund. And they felt that they had enough based on the applications that have come in over the past 3 years, that they can reduce that down to 150 as opposed to 300. So we covered a lot of the deficit with those two pieces. The rest of it will be made up in not hiring a retiree in the treasurer collector's office. And there's one other municipal employee, probably a part-time or a full-time reduction. Because I haven't talked to those people yet about that scenario, I don't want to get into detail about it, but that's how we'll bridge the rest of the gap. Those are the only four pieces, right? And we had a meeting with the school, but we just didn't feel like we could or didn't even want to ask for any further reductions from the.
So health insurance being at 5.4%. That's well this year then, huh?
Yeah, we beat the benchmark for the GIC, so if we stay with GIC, it would have been as high as 10%, depending on which plan. So we made the right decision,
Good.
getting out of the GIC and being here. We want to sign this renewal as quickly as possible. There's only 5 months of claims data, so we want to make sure that we have that loss run at a point in time that's favorable to us, so we want to sign that as quickly as possible. But I just caution everybody, there's no, 8, if I had 3 UPS in the mix, I would have kept the 8 in there, because that 115 would have allowed for lives, right? Anybody has a qualifying event, somebody got hired, someone got fired and hired someone else that needed health insurance. I have no margin for any movement inside this plan at 5.4. So that's a problem. We always manage it, we're always tight. But there's been times where I've had as many as 17 lives in that budget number. I don't have any lives. There can be no qualifying events.
So, for instance, what sort of qualifying events are you seeing? I know you just listed off a couple of it that I'm interested in.
Marriage, death, divorce. What else? New hire?
Yeah.
But would,
People being born, the kids come under the plan. Does that make a difference?
Not typically, because typically those people, if they're on our plans and they're married, they're already on
The
a
family
family
plan,
plan, and
right.
there's no charge. The amount is the same when you bring kids on. It's mostly like if, a new hire, someone leaves and we replace them and the previous person didn't have health insurance, the new person wants health insurance, it's like a $15,000 swing for one person,
Right.
for us. So,
there are 3 different plans for active employees, and one of them is called a focused HMO, which isn't robust in a lot of ways, but it saves the employee money. So we're trying to develop programs and marketing material to get people into that focused network, which that will create the margin if there is the 1 or 2 movements that might come about. But we will focus on that. So did I miss anything else? And that was we had to cover. After we take out the revenue and the reduction in health insurance, we had to make up 205, and we did it with the non-replacement of people.
yeah, the 205 isn't the total.
No, I know, but just to,
Yeah, we didn't have to cut 350. We only had to cut 320 because we had like roughly $30,000 in excess levy with the budget that we had presented to you with UPS in it. So just taking the permit out, like $319,000, and the combination of not filling those 2 positions, or laying off, not filling, and then overlay and health insurance, bridge the gap.
And the bags, which were.
and the
already-
Yeah,
bags.
those- that was
bags
always-
always in
Right,
excess.
yeah.
No, I know.
So as far as the part-time what was it, the part-time, raises or anything like that, that is not being affected at all.
No, you know, so people will still get probably maximum of 2%.
Okay.
You know, maybe lower in some instances, but yeah, people will still have some additional compensation, obviously, to offset and reward for their good work and cost to health insurance.
Anybody have any comments for Tim?
Alright, so now that we've kind of gotten to this point with the budget and we're pretty much set for moving forward, do we want to have a more in-depth conversation on it? What positions we want to see rehired? What positions we want to see? Do we want to have a more in-depth conversation on this? We gotta wait for Craig, I understand that.
Yeah.
Because we'll just be regurgitating the conversation over again. So, I'm just saying, now that we kinda have a nice level playing field, maybe on the next week, or the next time that all 5 of us are gonna be here, we can come up with our questions on what we see in the budget, what we like, what we don't like, and things like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you think that's a good use for what we should do for this
Yeah.
budget, then yeah.
Certainly what we should be doing, I think.
What was the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Have you gone before finance committee yet?
We met with 2 reps today, Mark and Erica.
Okay.
We've covered this with them. We covered it with Sue.
Robbins, yeah.
So the chair is aware of it, and at least 2 members are aware of this scenario, as well as the other department budgets that they came in and met with us about today.
Okay.
And then the 5-year projection is done again based on not having the permanent and moving out another year for the TIF agreement and so forth.
Yeah, we just shifted the 350. Everything just moves a year down the road. So,
So, but everybody's asked for the expense side, when that gets factored in, you know, in 2021, you'll see a big number in a bracket. 'Cause
yeah.
That's what I think you wanna have a discussion about, right, Bruce, is 21?
Yep.
As horrifying as it is, if we gave everybody what they asked for, it's a big number, it's like in the 8s. Is it over 8?
Million?
No, 831,000.
Oh,
No,
yes.
it's just,
831,000. I think
Yes.
that's that number in
It's around the 1 million mark.
Oh, boy.
2021.
That's not surprising. Okay.
okay.
All right, moving forward, town administrator evaluation and goals.
Again,
I like
Again.
5-0.
we gotta wait for Craig.
5-0.
Yeah. I mean, for the goals, so I figured just, we can do that, and then the evaluation, it's almost complete. I have everyone's stuff, and it's just putting it together, so. So we'll have this on the agenda again,
Yep.
just for next week. And then last but not least, the finance study committee.
In keeping with the theme, I presented the revised charge to finance committee and to school committee, and this is my fault. I was supposed to go back and watch their meeting because they had some comments, take those comments into consideration, send it back to them. I have not had a chance to do that yet. I suppose it's just as well. What I would like to do is revise it accordingly, send it to them, send it to you guys, because you guys don't think I've even seen outside of what we talked about.
Yeah.
See the draft. So I'll circulate it to all of you, and then if we want to talk about it next week, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I figure we wait for Craig
Yeah.
to be here too, and,
Yeah.
you know. We'll just wait for Craig, and that way we have a 5-member board, or we can, we all can have eyes on it and opinions on it, and
And
everyone's.
just execute something
Yes,
Exactly,
something
without having
at
to.
someone.
yeah,
So that's it, no executive session?
I don't think so.
No, exactly.
Well, I move to adjourn then, Mr. Chairman.
Second,
No, come on, it's only 8, whatever,
No.
there's no way.
8:08.
Motion made, second discussion,
More often.
All right.
hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, good night.